Hi everyone, Bart from HVN here, and I just want to make a quick video about a relatively simple drill that I've been practicing myself a lot lately. And the goal of this drill is to teach you awareness of your own openings during movement. So most of us know how to recognize openings in the opponent. A lot of people, they split up the opponent into quadrants or something, upper left opening, upper right opening, all that stuff. And most people also know that there are always openings. So basically I cannot use my sword in a stationary position to completely cover myself entirely. I always have an opening somewhere. Now, because of course the sword can be moved, then during this movement the openings change. They are mutable. During movement, new openings are created and new openings are closed off. Now, this drill teaches you something about where you are weakest during an attack. And that is, let me just go through this. If I am in a point forward position like this, generally I am safest from attacks coming from this side because my blade is in the way. I am least safe over here behind the blade on the inside. Now, what happens when I make an attack, for instance, from Tag, I strike forward. Right now, the blade is in the way. This area is pretty much covered. I throw my blade forward, and as I'm doing that, my arms extend and move off to the side. This area suddenly becomes very exposed. Now, it is also relatively difficult to cover this area directly after an attack. You're extending your arms forward, you're moving forward, you're trying to move towards your opponent, closing distance, and as soon as he's parried, he can throw it back here, and it's difficult to pull your arms back from an attacking position into a defensive position. And because it is difficult, and because this is such a vulnerable area, a lot of people who are aware of this will immediately attack this area as soon as they have done parrying. You make your attack forward, they parry, and immediately throw an attack back at you towards your most vulnerable area, your dominant side. As soon as your sword goes forward for an attack, your dominant side is vulnerable. And this drill helps you to become aware of that, mitigate that weakness a little bit, and also know how to recognize it in the opponent. It's relatively simple. It's in 3 steps. I also taught this drill, I think last year at the Masters of Longsword workshop weekend. There's a couple variations, but it basically follows the same general idea. So, like I said, 3 steps. First one is just an attack forward. From Tag is probably easiest, and you just want to make a general diagonal cutting motion towards the opponent. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is probably best shown from this side. So, first step, throw the cut forward, and from there you have to assume that as soon as your opponent has parried this, he will throw it back at you towards your dominant side, in this case my right shoulder, and you want to parry that as quickly as possible. There's no footwork necessary here. All you do is you rotate the torso towards the side that's being attacked, and you go into a crossed arms position. If the head is being attacked, you go a little bit higher. If the hands are being attacked, you go a little bit lower. But generally, it's like this, crossed arms position, wind yourself up, rotate the torso out towards the side that's being attacked so you can more easily catch the incoming attack. That's step number 2. From step number 3, you want to immediately throw it back to yourself again, because the same weakness that you have, your opponent also has. They've just thrown an attack, meaning that the side that the blade came from is now the weakest, just behind their blade. What I usually like to do if they've thrown a cut towards my head or shoulder is throw an ascending cut, a rising cut towards their arm. You can unwind and immediately throw it forward again. You probably don't need footwork for this. So it's a very simple drill in terms of footwork. All you do is step 1, cut forward. Step 2, rotate to the side cross arms position for the parry. And step 3, throw it back again with a cut. Now, that's option number 1. You can also do this with a thrust. It's a little more difficult to throw a thrust from a crossed arms position. This might be actually why the drill is useful. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's necessary for you to practice yourself to be comfortable in uncomfortable positions so that when the need for them arises, you'll be able to do them properly. So, in the case of wanting to throw a thrust back, same beginning, throw the cut forward, parry to the side, and he'll probably have cut low towards your hands, meaning that your hands are also low, meaning that your point is more easily on line for the opponent. And all you need to do now is extend the arms towards the opponent and make a passing step to finish in a properly balanced position. So, 1 cut, 2 parry, 3 thrust. That's version number 2. There are 2 things to pay attention to when doing this drill. One is prevent overextending during your initial attack. The more committed you are to your initial attack, the more difficult it will be to stop and recover when you are being counter-attacked towards your dominant side. So make every first cut in a balanced and somewhat conservative way. You want to be able to reach the opponent, but you don't want to run through the opponent. So cut and stop in a nicely balanced position so that you can easily rotate and catch the incoming counter-attack. Point number 2. While you can use thrusts and cuts, throwing them back again from both a high and a low parry, I have found that it is usually more convenient, after having cut and parried, to throw back a rising cut underneath their arm if they, for instance, throw a track out to your head, a horizontal high cut, because in that case, this lower area here, where their arms are, is more available for a rising cut. And it makes more sense to want to throw a thrust back if your hands or your arms are being attacked, because in that case you need to lower them and keep the point in line, which makes it much more convenient and obvious to return with a thrust. So generally, if you're being counter-attacked to a high target, throw a rising cut back. If you're being counter-attacked to a low target, throw a thrust back. So, cue number 1, do not overextend, don't be too eager when attacking. And cue number 2, when attacked low, thrust forward. When attacked high, rising cut as the riposte. So, that's the whole drill. I hope this was useful. I hope it'll give you a little bit of ideas on how you can implement this in your training. And I hope to see you again in the next video.